All right, now back after what seems like a million years away is one of Golf Magazine's top instructors in our game, a guy who won the 1973 Long Island Boys Championship and the Long Island Private Schools Championship, in all, having won 17 events during his junior golf career. This guy played his college golf at Florida Southern, where he was a two-time first-team All-American. In 1981, he led the Florida Southern Moccasins to the Division II National Championship, and he won the individual medalist honors. In 1992, he was inducted into the Sunshine State Conference Hall of Fame, turned pro and played professionally from 1981 to 1988 here in the U.S., plus over in Mexico, Canada, Europe, and South Africa. He later became the director of instruction at Westchester Country Club, site of the Westchester Classic, and several other PGA and LPGA Tour events. He's been named the Teacher of the Year pretty much everywhere he's been. And beyond all of that, he's also, get this, an excellent writer. His work has been found in numerous publications like Golf Magazine, Golf Digest, Golf Illustrated. Plus, he's written a wonderful book called The Six-Spoke Approach to Golf. That's 5-star rated, folks, out on Amazon.com. Who am I talking about? Well, of course, it's our very own Director of Instruction, Tom Patri. Hey, TP, how are you, my friend?
You went back to the 1973 Long Island Boys Championship. That's digging deep, Chrissy. That's like nobody gives a crap about the 1973
No?
Boys. No.
I think there were a lot of boys on Long Island that might have given a crap.
Oh my God, that's quite a stretch. That was quite an introduction. I'll try to live up to that. Wow.
All right, you got a lot to live up to tonight. First of all, it's been like a million years since you've been on the show. So you got to catch us up first and foremost, because you did a little international traveling, right?
Yeah, I did. Denise and I took a week off, actually 8 days, and I hadn't been across the pond, and I was trying to figure it out. 24 or 25 years, which is hard to believe. It's like another lifetime. When I was still playing, and we haven't been across together ever. So we spent 3 or 4 days in London and 3 days in Paris, and we had a blast. We had a great time. Awesome.
Wow. Good for you guys.
Yeah. She actually let me go with it. I thought she was going to take the dog, but I got to go.
I'm sure you were second choice. Make no mistake.
The dog didn't really want to go. He opted out.
Exactly.
Otherwise, he would have been in.
That's right. Out of the plan. All right. So we haven't had a chance to talk on air since the whole Ryder Cup debacle that we all watched.
Oh boy, here we go.
Yeah, I got to get your reaction about what you saw, and more importantly, maybe what you heard.
I've never been so embarrassed in my life as a New Yorker, as a Long Islander, native Long Islander, as a New Yorker, as a PGA member, as a junior golfer who grew up playing some of my most fond memories of junior golf at Bethpage, particularly on the black and the red course. It was embarrassing. It was embarrassing the way we played. It was embarrassing the way our fans acted. It was embarrassing the way the PGA of America handled it. I think it was embarrassing the way the team captain handled it. And it was embarrassing the way some of the players behaved before, during, and after. It is definitely a black mark, I think, on the Ryder Cup from an American standpoint. I think it's a black mark on international competition from an American standpoint. And I funny because I was watching it from London, England, with friends of mine that are obviously English and European fans, and I found myself apologizing to them while we were watching the TV. It was terrible, awful.
Yeah. Speaking of the fans, right? I mean, that's where this thing is really got ugly, and we truly were the ugly Americans in all of this. But how do we keep this from happening again? I mean, next time, 2 years from now, right? It's over in Ireland, and who knows how our guys are going to get treated and how our fans are going to be treated when they go over there. I have a sneaking feeling that the European fans will have a little more class, but I think some of them might rightfully so want to take it out on the American players and the Americans that make that trip. But when we get back here in 2029, I mean, how do we put this genie back in the bottle, the toothpaste back in the tube, whatever you want to call it? How do we get away from letting this happen again?
I just think that behavior is a microcosm of where this country is right now. I think golf has always been a microcosm of the society we live in. I've always said if you want to really get to know somebody before you do business with them, just play 9 holes with them. You can learn a lot about somebody in 9 holes on the golf course and their behavior. I'm not sure, Chris, in this current state we're in as a country, that you put that back in the bottle, unless something really changes in the next 4 years. I'll bet you that when we go to Scotland in 2 years, that they act extremely well, which would make us look even worse based on where we're coming from. I'll bet you see great, not that they won't cheer for their team and be passionate, but I think you'll see. I really think you'll see a wonderful decorum as a fan, as a European fan, and that'll even send the message that we were complete assholes to greater height. Because we weren't complete assholes. Complete.
I'm going to ask this next question to my next guest, Paul Horton, but I want to get your perspective because, to your point, where we are as a country and this whole social media world, Tom, where you can create a burner account and hide behind some, nebulous name and say whatever you want and be rude, and just the cesspool that Twitter or X has become. But a year from now, less than a year from now, the President's Cup is going to be here in Chicago, another big city. It's going to be held at Medinah. Can we fix this in time so that we have a better look? I get it, Tom. The President's Cup doesn't have the cachet that the Ryder Cup does, but it's still an international competition. Can we behave ourselves a year from now?
I just think it's a different animal, Chris. I think that it's, I don't think anybody wants to be over the top with Adam Scott or Hideki Matsuyama. I think that the Ryder Cup tension is from our side has been brewing for a while because we kept on getting our asses kicked, and rightfully so. And let's go back to the Ryder Cup for just 1 second. The ticket prices, players asking to be paid, $300,000 going to charity and $200,000 going to wherever they want to put it. Well, we know where they put it. They put it in their pocket in most cases, and then the behavior. Again, and the wonderful president of the PGA and his behavior, but the President's Cup is a product of the PGA Tour, and I think the PGA Tour watched this Ryder Cup run by the PGA of America. Understand, folks that are listening out there, PGA Tour and the PGA of America are two different bodies under different controls, and the PGA Tour, I would think, after seeing what happened at Bethpage, would have a tighter security presence. People would be removed from the property. They won't put up with that crap at all. And again, I think you're dealing with international players that they don't have the game. The President's Cup doesn't have the same deep-rooted passion. I remember the USA has been getting their asses kicked for how many years now? Pretty much in the Ryder Cup. Well, the President's Cup, we've dominated. Incredibly dominated, with the exception of one match. So there's not that hatred, that passion, that ugliness that's been building up like it had for the Ryder Cup.
You mentioned the PGA of America and its president. He had some interesting comments following the festivities. As a head scratcher for me, Tom, he said, you've got 50,000 people here that are really excited. And heck, you could go to a youth soccer game and get some people who say the wrong things, which is kind of a crazy comparison to what it's like at the Ryder Cup and what it was like. He doubled down then on LinkedIn, of all places, Tom, saying, couple thoughts. This is my profile, not the PGA's. That being said, thank you to all that have reached out to me as a friend and golf industry leader. I'm personally taking some criticism right now, and that comes with the role. And just like when I was an umpire, I expect it. However, to the students and PGA members that follow me, know this. I am not bothered. I know who I ultimately serve. When I wrote this sermon 3 years ago, I meant it, and today I'm living it. The truth is still the truth. New level, new devil. I'm like, what? What does that mean? I mean, I was scratching my head about what he had to say. And a couple days later, he walked a lot of things back and put out an apology to the European team and things of that nature. But Tom, I'm hearing some rumors that he may not be long for his role as president. Do you know anything about that?
I've heard the same rumors, Chris, and I don't know anything in depth about that. I know off the record who I would ask and who I'd go to, see if that is more than a rumor. But I'll tell you right now, I think there's a lot of PGA members that are not happy with his performance. So that I wouldn't be surprised if that's more than a rumor. I don't know that for a fact. But if a group of members that were pretty powerful mounted a charge and said, you know what, Don, it's time for you to step aside right now, that wouldn't shock me. It wouldn't shock me, and it would probably bring a smile to my face, actually. So, stay tuned. We'll see.
Yeah. All right, one more on the Ryder Cup, Tom, and I got just where do we go from here? I mean, do you think Tiger finally agrees to captain the team in Ireland in 2027? He's good friends with JP McManus, who owns Adair Manor, where it's going to be held. Or do you think they need to go outside of the game? Find a guy who might inspire and command respect of the players, maybe a Nick Saban or a Coach K or someone along those lines that can kind of get this team back on track, because we are, and I think this is a microcosm of who the U.S. team is. In foursomes and four ball, we're terrible. That's quote unquote team play. We're terrible at that. Obviously, we got whacked in that. But as individuals, hey, we're a heck of an individual, right? We went out and really almost had the miracle on turf when it came to the singles on Sunday. But where do you think this team has to go from here in order to get over this hump?
Well, first of all, I got a little theory about the team on Sunday playing so well. I think the European team has spent so much energy in the first 2 days, so much mental energy that they're exhausted. And I'm not so sure it's that we played that great and they played that. I think they were just spent and they were just hanging on. So I don't see the same. I don't have the same excitement about the way they played on Sunday because they came back. So that's one. Number two, I don't think you'll ever see us go outside of golf for a captain. I think you might go outside of golf for an advisor or a consultant, but not actually in the captain's role. I don't see that happening. But I think they should go outside of the game for advice. I definitely think we don't have it right, obviously, and I think if you look at the behavior and the preparation and the grace and dignity that Luke Donald showed versus our captain, I think you can start right there. I think he did an unbelievably great job in preparation, in creating an atmosphere or a vibe for his team that was so positive. That wasn't ever really over the top. It was just great preparation. I don't think we've gotten it right, at all. So I don't know where we go from here, Chris. Quite frankly, I'm not at this juncture right now. I'm not hopeful.
All right, let's switch gears up and talk about happier times, because
happier times. Here we come.
You were telling me a story off air, and it's a very good one, regarding the guys who followed you at Florida Southern on their D2 national championship team there in the mid-'80s. A few years after you went out and won the D2 individual medalist honors, and you helped the team win the national championship in 81. A couple years later, in comes Rocco Mediate and a bunch of other guys that went on to achieve some pretty great things. Tell the story about those guys.
Well, actually, I played with one of those guys today, Chris, as a matter of fact. So when I graduated in 81, we had won the team title, and like you said, I won the individual that year. During the course of that year, and I never knew this until a long time later on, an individual came for a campus visit, and I was put in charge of showing this person around campus and trying to help recruit him. Not that we were trying to recruit him real hard. He really wanted to come more than we wanted to recruit him. His name was Rocco Mediate. And I never knew this for a long time because Rocco and I became friends. He wrote a book about the U.S. Open at Torrey Pines when he went extra holes with Tiger. And I never knew it until he got me a copy of the book. This is crazy. It's in the book. He credits me with exciting him to go to Florida Southern and turning his career around Because if he hadn't gone there, he doesn't think things would have worked out the way they did for him. So along with him coming in the following year, a local kid from Lakeland, Florida, who was a cart kid at one of the courses we practiced at, named Lee Janzen, stayed at home, although he had other offers, and went to Florida Southern. And then this gentleman that I play with today was a kid that grew up at the same public golf course on Long Island that I grew up on, and he was 4 years behind me as a kid, and he asked me for advice on where to go, and I recommended he go to Florida Southern. He went there too. His name is Ralph Howe. So you have a guy named Lee Janzen who wins 2 U.S. Opens. Rocco Mediate is runner-up in the U.S. Open, taking the greatest player in the world, 38 holes. And then Ralph Howe, the kid I play with today, who went to Florida Southern behind me, won the U.S. Public Links and played in the Masters and made the Walker Cup team. So you think about this. You have a D2 program. And by the way, the 4th and 5th guys in that team were both really fine players and became club pros and really good playing club pros. One's in the Tampa area and one's on Long Island right now. So you had a 2-time U.S. Open champion, had a runner-up in the U.S. Open. You had a Walker Cup player and these 2 other guys on the D2 team. So I think that based on by the way, you know who I'm missing? Marco Dawson.
Dawson
was on that team also and won the British Senior Open. Was also on that team. So you have the British Senior Open champion, you have a 2-time U.S. Open champion, you have U.S. Open runner-up, and a Walker Cup player on a D2 team.
Not bad.
And I had turned pro my senior year, but was hanging around Lakeland practicing when this team was assembled. So I played a lot of golf with those guys those next couple of years. And I always kid them because when we won my senior year, when we won the team title my senior year and I won the individual, we won that team title by 35 shots after being 9 shots down the first round. So in the last 3 rounds, we cleared the field by 44 shots.
Also not bad.
Yeah, not too bad. I think that I'm not sure. I think that's still a Division II record. And I always kid them that when they won theirs, they didn't win by as many as we did. And we had 5 guys named Mo, including me. Like you would say about your Red Sox. But that was a hell of a team. And they all obviously went on to do great things in golf and have really, really great careers. Not only did Janzen win 2 U.S. Opens, but he won other tour events. And Rocco certainly, I don't know how many events he won on tour. I think he won 7 or 6. You might know better than I, Chris. Marco had a kind of a journeyman PGA Tour career, but still plays the senior tour off and on at I think above 60 years old. And one of the strongest human beings I've ever met in my life, by the way. I played with Ralph Howe, who won the Pub Links and went on to play the Walker Cup team and played the Masters. I play with today. He's now a preacher in Orlando, runs a church in Orlando. And by the way, we played 9 holes this afternoon and he shot 31 or 32.
Wow.
So those boys had a lot of games, still have a lot of game. That was a hell of a team and a great group of guys, too. Just a great group of guys.
All right, so there's some things I want to unpack there because when you were telling me about Ralph earlier today, I obviously looked him up and to your point about the U.S. Pub Links, but he was also the first left-handed player to ever win a USGA national championship. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. He defeated the defending champion Kevin Johnson in that U.S. Pub Links in a playoff on the 37th hole by chipping in. He also won the Massachusetts Open, the Massachusetts Am twice, to your point, on the 89 Walker Cup team, finished second in the New York State Am, and won the Mid-Atlantic Am as well. Not bad.
Yeah, and you know who his four-ball partner was on the Walker Cup team?
Who's that?
Phil Mickelson.
Ah, another lefty. 2
lefties played together, yeah.
Yeah. All right, so there's something else that I want to take you back to. Speaking of that time, May 10th, 1981. It's the week before you go out and win the D2 National Championship. You're 22 years old.
You're really going back here. Go ahead.
You defeated 42-year-old Bob Housen 2-1 to win the William D. Richardson Memorial Golf Tournament. You were trailing 2 up after 8 holes. You go on to win the next 5 and then hold on to win it. Now, Housen was a 3-time New Jersey amateur champion. Talk about coming back and beating him.
Yeah, so Bob Housen, I went up the year I won the individual. We won the team. We won it in Hartford, Connecticut, at a place called Hop Meadow. The year before, we'd finished second, and I had finished second my junior year, losing the national championship by a shot in Houma, Louisiana, just outside of New Orleans. So you lose by a shot in the national championship, and you wonder if you're ever going to get another shot at it. So listen, you could play great and not win. I was really motivated about going to the next one, especially in the Northeast on bent grass greens where I was more familiar and I was more comfortable. So I decided to go up a week early and practice and play in the Northeast, and which is home. And I got this invitation to play in the Richardson because of some other things I'd done in the Mets section prior as an amateur. The Richardson was ignorably the kickoff event of the Mets section summer amateur circuit, and at the time, if I'm not mistaken, carried 2 Walker Cup points if you won. Bob Housen was somebody I really looked up to. I knew who Bob Housen was. I'd never met him, but I knew about his reputation in New Jersey. He had played some national amateur golf too. He had qualified for several U.S. amateurs, and was a really fine player and turned out to be an absolute gentleman. So I won my first 3 matches to get into the final. And we played at a place called Seawain, which was where they hosted that tournament every year. It's kind of a linksy golf course on the South Shore. It's windy. I love playing in the wind. It's something I enjoy doing. I just come out of Florida where it was windy. I was playing pretty good leading up to that. I'd been working my ass off on my game for the NCAA, which was going to be the following week. So I thought this was a great warm-up. And Bob got off to a pretty fast start, made a couple birdies and had me a couple down. And then I went on a little bit of a run. And I kind of settled in and got some holes back and went ahead. And I never trailed after that. And it was a great honor not just to win that golf tournament because it was a well thought of golf tournament in that area, but to beat somebody like him was a huge confidence boost going into the next week at Hop Meadow for the NCAA. It was a huge confidence boost. And the putting surfaces at Hop Meadow, from a speed standpoint, were very similar to the putting surfaces speed-wise at the Seawain the week before. So it was a great prep, under pressure, putting on surfaces that were a similar speed. So it was a huge help. Huge help.
So that built your momentum, obviously, to go into that following week. And again, like we've talked about, you win, the team wins. The team won by a modern record. You talk about that swing. It was a modern record that you guys won by those 35 strokes, and you won the individual honors by 5 strokes. Mm-hmm. So did you guys get to cherish kind of like that walk up 18, you walking up 18, knowing you're going to win a national championship because you got that 5, shot cushion, and then the team obviously blitzed everybody else by taking a huge lead. Did you guys get to enjoy that moment?
Yeah, I did, because I got to the 16th tee, which was a par 3, which was parallel to the 18th green. I could see the 18th green from 16 tee. And Coach walked over because, no scoreboards in the Division II National Championship in 1981. And he said, "Do you want to know how you stand?" And I said, "Yeah." And I'll tell you a funny story about that, Chris. I said yes because the year before in Louisiana, I led for the first 3 rounds on a much harder golf course, a really, really hard really hard golf course. I led the first 3 rounds, and in the last round, it got even harder. And I was on I got to think about this, the 15th tee, and he walked up to me on 15 the year before and said, "Do you want to know how you stand?" And I was even for the day, and I thought, and I started out with a 2-shot lead. I thought I was in pretty good shape. He said to me, "You're 2 shots behind." I said, 2 shots behind? How can I be 2 shots behind? He goes, "Paul Perini from Troy State shot 66 today. He's in the clubhouse. He's got you by 2, and you got 4 to play." And I was like, I can't say this. Are you fucking kidding me? So I par 15, and 16 is a par 5 with an island green. And I got a go number after my tee shot during the practice rounds. But during the first 3 rounds, I never went for it. I laid up all 3 days and hit wedges in. So I hit a good drive on 16, really good drive. I was kind of pumped up, and I was past my go number, so I went. knocked on the green 2 putt to make birdie. Now I'm only 1 behind. The next hole is a par 3 coming back on the same water hazard, an island green, and I hit it to a foot. So now I'm tied. And then I hit a good drive on 18, dog-leg left, and the ball took a wild bounce to the right. And I thought it was fine. I got down there. It was kind of blocked a little bit by a tree. So I had to hit this little cut 3-iron around the tree, and I got it right up short of the green. I chipped it up to about 6 feet, a pretty long chip shot. And I left it dead in the middle with half the ball hanging over the hole short.
Oh.
To lose by 1. So that was with me. That was carried with me. So I'm on 16T the following year, and I said, okay, how do I stand? I'm saying, just don't tell me somebody's got 65 or something. He goes, no, you got a 5-shot lead with 3 to play. So I par 16, par 3, 17 and 18 were both par 5s. And I par 17, I kind of laid up very conservative. 18, I did the same thing. So I'm on 18T with a 5-shot lead, and I know the team's already won by 1 million. So 18 was a great stroll, man. It was awesome. I just kind of drove it down the middle, no problem. I hit it to a layup number and then pitched up about 15 feet, 2-putted, and that was that.
Wow, what a great feeling that had to be.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was fun. I mean, Chris, that's funny you asked me these questions. I don't think I've told that story about the year before and then the next year. I don't think I've told that story in 20 years, at least, or 30 years. I don't think I've ever really discussed that with anybody in a long time. I don't remember the last time I even talked about it.
Well, I'm honored that you talked about it here.
Yeah, it was fun.
Tom, before I let you go, remind our listeners again how they can stay up to date with all the great things that you're out there doing. Maybe get a V1 video lesson from you, and then check out your YouTube channel and where you can be found on social media.
Yeah, the YouTube channel has taken off because it's been so much fun. I think I've got just shy of 500 subscribers, and I'm trying to build that up. I'd like to get 1 million people on there, just have some fun with it. I think 350 videos on that YouTube channel now. And then the normal place, Instagram Live, I do almost every morning at 8:00. And I've got some great guests coming up. I've got Mark Immelman coming on. I've got Nick Sherman, who's the owner and founder of Club Champion, coming on. Warren Botke, who's been a teacher of the year at the South Florida section multiple times, coming on. I've got Steve Scott. You know who Steve Scott is, lost to Tiger in the finals at the U.S. Amateur. Pumpkin Ridge is coming on. So it's been fun. They're all coming up in the next couple of weeks. I've had Chris Mascaro on. It was a highlight of my Instagram live shows. So that you can find me there. And then of course the website is just tompatri.com. But every other Tuesday at 8:00, I record with Chris Mascaro on Next on the Tee, the greatest golf podcast on the air and with the best host in America. Even though he's a Red Sox fan, even though.
Yeah, exactly. I make a lot of concessions to allow you on these airways.
You're unbelievable. You're so kind.
I really am something.
Chris, in all seriousness, the people listening out there, in all seriousness, this guy, folks, works his ass off getting people on here that are much more talented and much more recognizable than me. And it really is the greatest golf podcast on the airwaves, and you deserve a lot of credit for what you do, Chris.
Well, I appreciate that very much, TP. You're the best, my friend. I can't thank you enough for everything that you mean to this show and to me personally. There's no one better than you, my friend.
I love you, buddy. I'll talk to you tomorrow.
All right. Take care, Tom.
Bye, buddy.
That is the great Tom Patri, folks. TomPatri.com is his website. Go out there and subscribe to that YouTube channel. Get 350 free video lessons there and sign up on V1. Choose Tom Patri as your instructor. He's just 1 in a million and one of the great people you get to meet in this life. I owe a lot to Tom, and he's meant a lot to the show. 123 times tonight as he has been on this show. So I thank him for all the great content and moreover for being just one of the best people and friends you could ever ask for. So we'll catch up with Tom again in a couple of weeks. Coming up next is a tremendous individual and perhaps the most decorated instructor in Canadian golf history, and that is Paul Horton. Before I bring Paul into the show, I want to remind you about our friends over at On Point Golf and their out-of-this-world On Point Golf Ball Marker. And if you don't have one, folks, you really need to go check it out at onpointgolf.us. Get the #1 ball marker in the game of golf. On Point is the only 3-dimensional ball marker out there. with alignment technology and a removable coin that is approved to use according to the rules of golf. As you know, putting is all about line and pace. Mark your ball with OnPoint, engage with your three-dimensional ball marker, and have more confidence in your line, execute the putt, and you're going to lower your scores. Do what the likes of Jim Furyk, PGA professionals, and amateurs alike are doing now. They use the number one ball marker in golf and they lower their scores. You know Ken Duke and Thongchai JD. They won for the first time on the PGA Tour in 2023, and they were using an OnPoint ball marker. Get yours at onpointgolf.us and make more putts. And oh, by the way, you can also customize the removable coin for any club, event, or corporate outing. They make really great tee gifts and custom products. That's also going to help lower your score. I use OnPoint ball markers. Mine is black and gold, 3D black golf ball with a gold line down the middle to help me line up my putts. It's like having a 15th club in my bag. It's helped my game. Why wouldn't you let it help yours? Again, onpointgolf.us. See what I'm talking about. Order yours today. I also want to remind you about our wonderful friends over at Squares Golf.
So Nick here. What if there was a golf shoe embraced by hundreds of thousands of golfers, celebrated for its stability, comfort, and distance? What if this shoe earned the title of most technologically advanced golf shoe by Sports Illustrated? And what if the company behind that shoe spent the last year perfecting a brand new category of golf footwear? Well, the what if is here. Introducing the all-new Pro S2 LT by Squares, a new class all of its own. The perfect blend of lightweight comfort and stable performance. You'll notice the difference. Change your shoes, change your game. Squares.
I also want to give a special shout out to our wonderful friends over at the Pittsburgh Brewing Company. Their pumpkin ale is back, folks. It's the number one selling pumpkin beer in Western Pennsylvania and incredibly popular everywhere their beer is sold. Why? Because it's everything you love about beer disguised as everything you love about homemade pumpkin pie. Go online to pittsburghbrewing.com to check that one out. Plus, their other great beers, including the Blockhouse Blueberry Wheat, along with my family's favorites, Iron City and Icy Light, of course. Check all of that out and everything else they've got going on this fall by going online to pittsburghbrewing.com. Now back and next on the tee with me is one of the most decorated instructors in Canadian golf history, and that's Paul Horton. Paul has been named the PGA of Canada National Teacher of the Year and National Coach of the Year as well. He's won the PGA of Alberta's Teacher of the Year award several times and Coach of the Year twice. He's also a top 50 junior golf coach. He was named the PGA of Canada's Coach of the Year 3 times. He's Canada's highest-ranking aim point certified instructor. He's also a certified blast motion coach and certified in bioswing dynamics. Paul is the co-lead coach out there at the Golf Channel Academy at Cottonwood Golf and Country Club. Plus, he has his own golf academy. He's a fantastic follow out on Twitter or X at Paul Horton Golf, and I couldn't be more excited. I get to have him back again with me this week here on Next on the Tee. Hey, Paul, how are you, my friend?
Excited to be on the show again, Chris.
Paul, there is so much that I want to get into with you. I want to start by getting your reaction to the Ryder Cup and whether the fan behavior gives you any pause. And as we look forward to next year's President's Cup matches, which are right back here in the U.S. at Medinah, are you nervous about that? Are you concerned about what might happen? Do we need to get ahead of that before next year? Now, I know the President's Cup and the Ryder Cup, they aren't on the same level from a rivalry and historical standpoint, but still, fan behavior is fan behavior, and these are important matches.
Yeah, I don't have any concerns myself. The President's Cup, as Tommy alluded to, is a different bird, if you will. The Ryder Cup does run, has deep emotional, like a long history of just rivalry between the Euros and the Americans. And so it is different, but I think, that maybe the Americans have learned something on what happened this year in New York. And I don't know if it's a New York thing or whatnot, but, I think things will be better at Medinah. And who knows, there may be a few Canadian players on the President's Cup team, and it's hard to root against the Canadians.
Oh, no doubt. Do you ever talk to maybe the Canadian players or the folks around Canada? Does the President's Cup hold a level of cachet with the international players, particularly those that are going to make the teams from Canada, and for the Canadian golf fans? I know it's not on the level maybe of perhaps the Ryder Cup because of the history and and the intensity of that rivalry, I was struck by Shane Lowry, who said that winning the Ryder Cup was more important. It meant more to him than winning the Open, which I thought was a heck of a thing to say. Do you think any of the President's Cup players have any level of that kind of importance placed upon winning the President's Cup for the international team?
Last year when it was in Montreal, at Royal Montreal, certainly we had some Canadians on the team, and being in Canada, it had a big cachet for the Canadian players and whatnot. So, I think I can't remember how many players we had, 3 or 4, I believe, off the top of my head. So, it's definitely a big thing for Canada, and we get to see hopefully a few Canadians on the team, and it's always good for the country to get behind those players and whatnot. So we'll see what happens in terms of team players and who's going to make the team and all that coming up. But I think there will be at least 1 or 2, maybe 3 Canadians on the team, and we'll see what develops.
Okay, Paul, I want to switch gears a little bit and get some playing lessons from you because you're so fantastic as a coach and as an instructor. And you've got a wonderful video out on your YouTube channel about how to hit our drives further, straighter, and even with different trajectories on them. Can you walk us through that and how we can achieve all 3 of those things?
Yeah, I did a tip through Golf Town and our YouTube channel. If we started with how to hit it farther, and we maybe just talk with the driver. The tip that you're alluding to, this particular tip on distance was just trying to lift your left heel or your lead heel. So you're lifting your front heel on your backswing to develop a little bit more turn, a little more depth of backswing, and then planting that left foot or the front foot down to initiate the move down and through to finish. So it was fairly simple tip. And if you do lift your front heel off the ground going back, and you kind of slam it back down in a way with good tempo, it can help you utilize the ground a little more efficiently and develop some ground reaction forces that come to add more power to the shot. So that was that tip. The one on straighters more to do with club face control. There's many factors that affect direction. The face would likely be the most dramatic or the most sensitive to direction. And really, if you've got a good grip and your position at the top is in pretty good order, it's really all about the downward unhinging or uncocking of those wrists. That creates a constant rate of rotation with the club face. So players that struggle with direction typically are trying to guide it or steer it in some fashion, or to manipulate the face in some way, which ultimately is hard to do. And if you just have a feel for the weight of the club head and you let it swing, the laws of physics will help the club face rotate more consistently and at a constant rate of closing, so that just letting the club swing so you can be aggressive or assertive all the way through to finish, and the club face should do what it needs to do to hit it straight. You just have to learn how to trust that. And then for trajectories, we talked about hitting it high or low, and maybe there's a situation where you're downwind and maybe on a par 5 where you want to hit it a little bit further. You can tee it up slightly higher than your normal height, and due to that extra tee height, you can push the ball position a little bit more forward, so it might be a little bit more to the instep of your front foot or your big toe of your lead foot, and you're just trying to hit a little bit more up on the ball to create a little bit more height, so the wind can help you out there. And then conversely, to hitting into a headwind, you want to tee the ball down a little bit lower, move the ball position just very slightly back in your stance. So we're just talking an inch or two, depending on how low you do want to flight it, and then you're just trying to hit the ball around the low point of your swing versus hitting up on it for that higher shot. And if you're hitting or bottoming out nearer the low point, that ball should fly slightly lower than that one that's teed up higher. So that's what that was about.
Paul, an area that I struggle with, and I believe many of our listeners struggle with as well, is consistently making those knee knocker 4 to 6 foot putts. How can we become more consistent with knocking those things every time?
Yeah, I think those short putts, everyone expects to make them. And so the first thing I would focus on is a mental aspect. I think there's typically too much concern of the outcome for players. So if you're sitting over a 4, 5, 6 foot putt, there's, obviously you expect to make it, or you'd like to make it, or otherwise it feels like you're throwing a shot away. And really you have to, stick with the process and not worry about the outcome. And so the trick is to try and have no concern about the outcome and focus on the line you're choosing. So you need to trust your line, trust your aim, and focus on the appropriate speed. The other thing that I find helps is to really keep your eyes steady. So I like to pick out a dimple on the back of the ball where the putter is going to strike the ball. And so that's where my eyes would focus, which really helps keep everything still. So keeps your body still, keeps your head still, and allows you to just, focus in on striking the ball right in the center of the face and hitting it on your intended aim line there. So, and prior to all of that, you're trying to visualize the putt going in. So you need to see it before you can sink it. So if you can visualize that putt going in, and then again, it's all you can do is hit the ball, on line with the appropriate speed, and take what you get. And if you miss, we all miss them from time to time. And if you miss a short putt like that, what I would recommend is, as you walk to the next tee, you may want to replay that putt over in your mind, but seeing that putt go in, so you actually hear the ball going in, and if you can replay that positive visual in your mind 10 or 15 times as you walk to the next tee, that will give you a better outlook when you face the situation, which may happen on the very next hole. Right, you have more of a positive outlook versus, I missed that one left, or I missed this one right. Where is this one going to miss? That kind of thing. So,
and Paul, putting strokes tend to vary from player to player. Some of us are straight back and straight through, while some of us have a bit of an arc in our stroke, and unfortunately, some of us have both, and it changes from hole to hole because we're just not locked in yet on our putting stroke. How can we get more consistent with our putting stroke? And is one way better than the other? Straight back, straight through better? Is an arc better? Does it matter?
Well, I think, the arc of the putt depends on the lie angle of the putter. I use a thing that it's called what used to be called the Swinky. One of my students actually was a co-founder or inventor of this thing, and it's now called the Golfer's Toolbox that Jim McLean's bought out. Anyways, it's a rail that you stick into the putting green and allows you to rest your shaft on the rail. And as you swing it back and forth, the shaft goes straight back, straight through, but the putter head will actually arc slightly. So it arcs less with a more upright putter. So those putters that stand taller and more upright, they'll arc less, but they still arc. And a flatter putter, so a flatter lying putter, will arc more. And I think a lot of it is built into the setup. So you need to work on your setup so your eyes get more or less over the ball, or maybe slightly to the inside of the ball. So if you're consistent with that, it'll help your putter go. The shaft will go back, straight through, but allow the putter to just naturally do its thing. So it's I wouldn't say you need to consciously, try to arc your stroke. It just does it based on how far you might be from the ball. So if you stand too far from the ball, it's going to arc too much. And if you're too close to the ball, it might reverse arc the other way, which, probably isn't good either. So, I think just getting a consistent routine so you know how far you are from the ball, for example, because every day is different. And if you use a couple of training aids, a lot of tour players will use a mirror at the start of their putting practice for a few minutes just to calibrate where their eyes would be relative to over the ball or just slightly inside of it. And they typically stand, the tour players will stand between 2 to 2.5 putter widths from their toe line to the ball. So they calibrate themselves when they get out there early so that they feel they're in the same position as they were the day before. So it's consistency and setup, I would say, that would help.
Another area that we struggle with, Paul, a lot of times is our speed control, particularly if we got a putt over 20 feet or so. How do we gain better speed control on those length putts?
Yeah, I think, speed control, it's there's two factors that control speed. And, one would be the length of the stroke and the other would be the timing of the stroke. So if you had a putter, a backstroke length that equaled in length to the forward stroke and you swung it back and forth, you want to have the beat or the tempo of your stroke stay the same, and to hit the ball further, we would add length to the stroke. So I use some baseline drills first. So I set up, basically string stretched out at 10 feet, 20 feet, and 30 feet. And I get players to putt to those, to the 10 foot, 20 foot, 30 foot lines. And really it's all about the stroke length that helps you control how far the ball's rolling. So for example, it all depends on whether your tempo is fast, medium, or slow. But for an average tempo, if you took the putter back 8 to 10 inches on a normal speed of green, the ball's going to roll approximately 10 feet. And that can change as green speeds change. But so 8 to 10 inches back gets you 10 feet. If you take it another 4 or 5 inches back, it'll add 10 more feet. So that would get you 20 feet. And another 4 or 5 inches beyond that would get you 30 feet. So that's where I start with players. And once they start to feel that they just need to add a little bigger kind of thing to go a little farther and keep the beat of the stroke the same, then it becomes a lot easier to feel that you have control of the speed. So I also set up, some speed control games or drills. One would be where you can use, I use 10 balls and I'm 40, 50, 60 feet away. You can modify that to start out at 20, 30, 40 and maybe work from 30, 40, 50 and eventually work to 40, 50, 60. And I'll have a ring that's a 6-foot diameter ring. And you basically hit 3 balls from 40 feet. You hit 3 balls from, you'll actually hit 4 balls from 50 feet and 3 balls from 60 feet. So you've got 10 balls in total. And you just see how many balls can you land inside that circle. Another game that I like to play is a ladder game. And I set balls up at 6-foot increments starting at 12 feet. So if you can imagine a 3-foot circle around the hole, or at least if you had a 3-foot marker behind the hole, like an alignment stick, you start at 12 feet and you try to putt the ball. Whether it goes in the hole or not is irrelevant. It's all about, can you get it to the hole or slightly past? And if you do, you get to move back to 18 feet and 24 feet, then 30 feet, all the way up to 60 feet. And if you miss, you're going to score the previous. So if you missed at 30 feet, your score would be 24. And if you missed at, say, 48 feet, your score is 42. And the average golfer scores about 24, and the average tour player is going to score about 42 on that game. So it's really getting in, just more involved in games like that would, that are more engaging to make your practice more effective. And I remember doing this drill to a tour player once, and we did that ladder drill, and he went straight through from 12 to 60 and didn't miss. And he said, "That's easy. What else have you got for me?" And I said, "Do it again," because that might have been a fluke, right? Because if the player misses the very first putt, he's going to want to retry. So I like to do those games, maybe do them 3 times and take an average of what you might score for that. So playing games like that, I think, can really hone you in on being better at speed control.
Paul, you're an expert with aim point, like I mentioned in your introduction, and sometimes using aim point gets blamed for why play is slow, particularly out on the PGA Tour. Is the aim point process the culprit, or are players just not going through the process properly?
Yeah, I would say there are tour players that have a better process with aim point than other players that are using it. And really, it's not aim point that's slow. It's slow players are slow. So if you've got a slow player using aim point, they're going to be slow. If you've got a fast player that knows aim point and is using the process properly, then it's been proven, or we certainly have research behind it, that it is much faster than the traditional way to read a green, especially on the tour. So I know there was a few players, Lucas Glover comes to mind, that had his knock on aim point, and then Colin Morikawa came out the week after and was praising aim point. So really, it's not so much about the aim point being slow. It is much faster. So if you had a birdie putt, let's say inside of 20 feet, the typical aim point read, if you're processing correctly, should only take about 10 seconds. And if you're outside of 20 feet, those putts might take 15 or 20 seconds at most. So it's really less walking around. We don't need to go to the other side of the hole, that kind of thing. So it has gotten, I think, unfairly, it's gotten a knock on slow play, and it's really, I think, more the player itself that might be slow, and not so much aim point in the process. It's been a game changer, I think, for me, and it's certainly been a game changer for several of the tour players, and there's more and more players that are following into aim point because it works, right? It's easy, it's simple, and it's effective, and it's quick if you know how to do it. So,
Paul, as you know, Lisa Longball of Looswick is a favorite on this show. She has been fantastic each and every time that I've had the privilege of having her on the show, and you've worked with her for years on her game. Talk about what it's like working alongside of Lisa.
Yeah, Lisa's pretty fun. She's also a Golf Town ambassador. And she's, she might be the greatest ambassador for women's golf, certainly in Canada. I don't think there's any question there. And maybe even globally, she does so much for women's golf and the growth of the game through her golf schools and her Facebook clinics through Golf Town and whatnot. But, when we worked initially, she's so energetic and bubbly. I suggested decaf, but she doesn't even drink coffee. Right? So we worked a lot initially on fundamentals, ball position and things like that, posture. And one of her tendencies in her swing was her upper body got anxious, as a lot of players do, that her upper body would get anxious and start to unwind sort of a little early before the lower body had a chance to unwind. And she had a tendency to jump in her swing, and it wasn't so much the jump was wrong, it was just early. So we tried to get her to time the jump more effectively. so she could utilize the ground and create more, ground forces to help her hit it farther. So we did a lot of work. She's been, an absolute pleasure to work with, and she's not competing so much anymore. So we don't have as heavy a coaching schedule with each other. But, she, when she, got her sequencing down, it was really fun to watch her hit the ball so far and she would always, I guess, if she was playing with strangers, she would startle the group playing with three other guys that don't even know her, and she's playing from the tips and out driving everyone that she's playing with. So that was pretty fun to hear some of those stories.
I bet.
Yeah.
Brooke Henderson recently won the CPKC Women's Open. How big a win was that for Canadian golf?
Yeah, I think it was massive. She won her first major at 18 years old, and she's the winningest professional golfer in Canadian history. She's won, I think, 13 times now on the LPGA and two majors. And to have her win on Canadian soil was not too unlike Nick Taylor winning a few years earlier, which there had been no Canadian win the Canadian Open in all those years. So there was quite a drought, but Brooke won it at Mississauga Golf and Country Club, which is near and dear to my heart because that's where I started my golfing career. So it was kind of cool to see her win that event. So I think it was a massive thing for Canadian golf, just because of who she is. She's a Canadian icon, and she's also a Golf Town ambassador as well. Anyways, it was a pleasure to see that happen.
Josiah Tong recently went out and won the Callaway World Collegiate Championship. Talk about that young man.
Yeah, Josiah is a tremendous young adult. He's a bright young talent in golf. He also, before golf, played national and international badminton. So he was a very high level badminton player and really didn't get into golf until I'd say 2020. He had played a little bit prior to that, but he got in and wanted to compete at golf as he was, finding a passion for the game. So he's fairly young in terms of his golf experience, competitive experience, being maybe 5 years in now, but he's done so much. He's such a nice kid, and he's very studious. So he's a bright, smart kid that just is easy to coach. And so I've had a lot of time spent with Josiah over the last 5 years, and really developed his game. He won that collegiate championship. He shot 16 under over 3 rounds and won by a shot. He's won quite a few events all over the world, and he's in his junior year at the University of Rhode Island. So he's going to play that out and have one more year after this one. But he's very he's got a good demeanor. He's very calm and he's very competitive, but he has a great demeanor on and off the course, and I think that his mental skills he learned in badminton in terms of the competitiveness have helped him develop his mental skills for golf, and he's constantly learning. So he's been a joy to work with, and it's nice to see somebody to see them develop so quickly. So their game is at a pretty high level in just a few years' time. So, but he's put the work in too. So,
well, Paul, pretty soon it's going to start getting pretty cold in the northern part of the States and there in Canada. And we're going to start transitioning indoors and trying to keep our games from getting too much rust on them as we go through the winter months. What are some things that we can do during the winter to kind of keep our game healthy so we don't end up really behind the eight ball once it starts to get warm again in the spring.
Yeah, I think, having an off season is important. So, I would suggest some form of off season. For some, that might only be 2 weeks, and for some, it's a few months. But once you've gotten through the off season and you're ready to get back at it, it's a great time to work on your swing. So if you had any thing that you felt was in need to work on your swing, I would, seek out a PGA professional to help you with that, because you're not, when you're working indoors and the golf courses are closed in the northern part of North America, you can't get out and play. So when you're just working on your swing, you've got time to sort of process the changes and whatnot. So, great time to do major surgery on your swing and leave the golf season for minor tweaks and short game focus. So I think there's a lot of new indoor facilities too that have, there's more sim leagues available to go out and play and whatnot. And I know my son's been playing in the TrackMan. They have a tour called the Next Golf Tour. So that'll be starting up in January. But the other things you can do is just, some fitness stuff and speed training, all of these things you can do indoors. And the more you can get at it, the better you're going to be ready for spring. So don't wait till spring, but I'd say especially come January through April, maybe you can start to keep your swing grooved and make changes that are necessary and get those grooved in before the season starts.
It also won't be long before the new model year golf clubs come out. How much does going out and buying the latest and greatest equipment really help our game versus maybe thinking about taking the money that you would have invested in the latest and greatest driver, new clubs, that sort of thing, and maybe invest that with your local PGA professional instead?
Yeah, I'm pretty biased on that question. So, sometimes a driver can help, or that new putter, but I think your players are definitely better off investing some of their money in some solid coaching. So, look in your area for top level teacher or coach to help you work through those swing tweaks that are needed. So, it's part of it is understanding, what your swing is all about. So, if you understand your swing, you can become a better coach to yourself. So I try to get players to understand, what their tendencies are, and if their swing gets off, it's likely this or that they might need to focus on. So they have a better sort of understanding as to where they might need to go to address the concerns that happen throughout the season. So yeah, definitely, I would invest strongly in good coaching versus new equipment, and a good coach will direct you in the right direction for the best equipment for you. And equipment can certainly make a difference, but if you get the proper guidance first, you'll learn how to use it better.
Paul, just a couple more before I let you go, and a couple quick ones. But looking back over 2025 to this point, do you have a favorite golf moment that you enjoyed a lot or enjoy looking back on?
Maybe I shouldn't say the Euros winning the Ryder Cup. So that was Ryder Cup's always fun to watch, regardless of who wins. But I think back to Rory's win at the Masters, and completing the Grand Slam. That was certainly a highlight from my perspective. So pretty cool to see, one of the icons in the game, finally get the monkey off his back and achieve the Grand Slam. So kudos to Rory, and who knows what lies ahead for him.
So as we look ahead to the holiday season, what's on your holiday list this year?
Well, I'm hoping to get 2 new knees. I need some knee replacement. So that's on my list anyways. And just general good health to go along with that. So, I know you had, some major stuff go on with your ankle.
Yeah.
So I hope you're doing well with that.
It's coming along. It's certainly a long way to go, and I'm hoping, as I've said to lots of other folks, my goal is to be able to walk at least semi-normally by the time we get to the PGA Merchandise Show in late January, and then from there to start to get out and hit some pitch shots and develop, and hopefully by next summer I'm playing golf again. So those are my more
I hope,
medium and
to
long
see
range
you in
goals.
Orlando at the show.
Me too. I'll look forward to that. Paul, before I let you go, remind our listeners again how they can stay up to date with all the great things that you're out there doing, whether they're following you on your website or it's on social media.
Yeah, they can find me at paulhortongolf.com on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. My website is also paulhortongolf.com. And I'd like to thank, my partners that helped me along the way with Golf Town as a major partner, and TaylorMade Golf, and also Cottonwood Golf and Country Club, which is where our home base is at. I was at Heritage Point prior to that, and we've now been based out of Cottonwood for 5 years now, or I think it's 5 years. It's a great facility. It's an 18-hole private facility with a great short game area, and we just finished building a 2,000 square foot indoor tech center. So there's 3 double hitting bays, so we can hit into the bays. That we have garage doors that roll up if you want to hit from indoors to outdoors, or during the winter months those doors will stay closed, and we'll hit into sims with TrackMan technology and whatnot. So that's exciting on the horizon here.
Well, Paul, I can't thank you enough for taking time out of your busy schedule to come back and be a part of the show. You're fantastic, my friend. I can't thank you enough for everything that you have meant tonight to this segment and the previous time you were a part of the show. I hope we get to catch up with you again before too long.
Yep. Thanks, Chris, for hosting. So I'm a big fan of the show. So if anyone is new to the show, go back in the archives and listen to a bunch of the episodes, because there's lots of very interesting topics and guests that you have on. You do a great job.
Well, so I appreciate that very much. Take care, my friend. All the best to you and your family. I look forward to catching up with you again soon.
Okay, likewise, Chris. Thank you.
See you, Paul. That is the great Paul Horton, folks. Again, you can find him out on social media at Paul Horton Golf, and at paulhortongolf.com is his website. I mean, look, as you heard throughout the course of the conversation, there's a reason why he's the most decorated instructor in Canadian golf history. There's a reason why he's so sought after. There's a reason why Lisa Vluswick sought after him and his tutelage and those sorts of things. The man's knowledge is so vast, and he's such a great individual. So you kind of marry both things. You got a great guy that you're going to enjoy being with, plus like I say, the vast knowledge that he brings. It's just an unbelievable combination. So be sure to go out there and check him out. Again, with the first few things that we started talking about after the Ryder Cup stuff was a lot of the videos that he has available out there on his YouTube channel. So go check that out as well. So you're going to have some free video lessons that you can get. You'll see some of those things about driver distance and hitting it straighter and changing those trajectories. You'll talk about some of the putting strokes and how to make more putts. Paul is the guy that you want to seek out for those sorts of things. And like he says, what an honor it would be to be able to meet him in person down at the PGA Merchandise Show. I'm already excited about getting down there, getting through the PT so that I can walk around normally when I get there. But then to have an opportunity to perhaps sit down with Paul, maybe we could do a little segment down there for the podcast and spend some time together. That would be a huge honor. So I'm excited about the opportunity to do that. Go follow him, and we'll get him back on the show again before too long. All right, my friends, it is time for me to put a bow on part 1 of this week's show. My sincere thanks again to Tom Patri and Paul Horton. I hope you really enjoyed both of their perspectives and the tips that Paul shared with you to hit it straighter, make more putts. He's just fantastic. Now, come back for part 2. Again, like I said in the intro at the top, Bob Winskowitz, the guy who is the founder of Squares Golf, is going to join me, and you're going to learn that, look, shoes make a difference. You might think it's a gimmick. You might not understand the science behind it. He's going to give you that and the common sense because it makes a huge difference, even if you just kind of think about it. If your toes can lay flatter and lay naturally, you're going to get more drive and more ground force, which leads to more swing speed and more distance and more accuracy. So Bob's going to walk you through all of that. Come back and be a part of it with us. Folks, I can't thank you enough for your continued support and for making Next on the Tee a part of your weekly golf content. Until next time, hit 'em straight, my friends.
Thanks for joining Chris again this week on Next on the Tee. We hope you enjoyed the conversations as much as we did. Please share the show with your golf buddies and be sure to follow it on TribLive or your favorite podcast app so you never miss an episode. Thanks for pressing play and being part of the journey. We'll see you next week, right here, where the best minds in golf share their stories.